Welcome, guys. This is Casey is Raw, and today my guest host is Tex, and today
Howdy, howdy.
we're going to talk about our experience, mainly his about WCW.
Hell yeah.
I was going to wear my NWO shirt, but apparently is in the hamper somewhere.
You mean
So
it finally got washed after the 15 times of wearing it? Holy hell.
yeah.
I'm proud of you for doing laundry. That's good on you. You're
Oh
showing growth. So
well, I mean, I have two baskets full of laundry that I need to go through. So today I'm wearing my old ECW tank top. I mean, it used to be a
there you
shirt,
go.
then it had holes under the armpits, so I just ripped them off.
Hell yeah.
So this is
Nothing wrong
back.
with that.
This is the one back in '06 ECW.
Give
Uh,
blood. I like that. That's cool.
yeah, you know when
That's about
WWE
it.
had. This is WWE's
Oh
version.
god, yeah, that WWE ECW was horrible. Holy crap, was that
I
bad.
don't
Oh
know. I don't think it was
man.
that bad. I think it gets more flack than it does, but all right.
Oh, oh it's all good.
So, when did you start watching WCW?
My first encounter with pro wrestling was WCW. It was like it was a small house show where I saw Ric Flair fight Sting live in person. I was a kid, so I'm like
Wow.
4, 5, 6 years old. I don't even know how old I was. I've got a picture of me with him from after the event, and it was small, little, tiny, kind of thing. And this was
Hmm.
early '90s, and I mean, of course, I watched WWF growing up, but here in Texas, WCW was a bigger deal being a Southern promotion.
Hmm.
You know, my area of Texas was an old NWA, power, you know, like area where
Oh yeah.
there was a whole thing with the Dallas Sportatorium and everything else. So we had WCW, of course, came out of the NWA, the whole thing. Ted Turner comes in, buys it, whatever. So
Yeah.
for me, that was my first experience with it because that's what my father watched more and everything else. And it was just, I always liked the presentation of it. I remember as a kid seeing, you know, the Terry Funks and the Ric Flairs and Sting's my all-time favorite wrestler out of
Sting.
any of them. Oh, I love Sting, man. Sting's my dude. Like,
Well, which
he's
one? The
good.
Surfer Sting or Crow Sting?
I like Crow Sting better, but Surfer Sting will always have a place in my heart. Because if it wasn't for Surfer Sting,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, obviously as a young kid before Crow Sting existed, I was Sting for like 3 years for Halloween in a row with the face paint, the whole deal.
Oh,
It was really cool. Yeah,
I got a
but
question
yeah,
about Sting for you. I
all right.
when his TNA run, when he kind of went a little crazy and became this is
Oh, Joker
when
Sting.
yeah, Joker
Oh yeah,
Sting.
I love Joker Sting, man. I love DC Comics, and when he emulated Heath Ledger's Joker, that was
Oh,
awesome. That was
I
great.
think that was a perfect evolution of Sting, quite frankly.
That that's at least a top three favorite version of Sting for me,
Yeah.
and I could argue that might be my actual favorite version of Sting. Like if I were to ever sit down and list out, one through whatever, that's a guaranteed top three, maybe number one, depending on the day. It's one or two because it was just so cool what he did with it. I thought it was really fun.
I think they should have kept with it. I mean, I don't know if he kind of was phasing it back out and going back to Crow Sting, but I thought he should have
Yeah,
stayed with it because I
yeah.
mean, how long could you be Crow Sting forever? You know?
Well, see, that's what was so weird is you had Surfer Sting. Then he was like when he started to grow his hair out, and it was like, and it wasn't like long yet, but it was like the regular brown that it always was.
Yeah.
Like in the early days of the NWO, this was before the Crow. And then you had Crow Sting, and you had a few versions of that. Then you got Wolfpack Sting with the red face paint. I love me some NWO Wolfpack. That's my favorite version. And afterwards, he went back to the black and white makeup, but it was a different evolution because he had elements of Surfer Sting with the look of Crow Sting. So he stayed that for pretty much till the end of WCW. So there was about 4 or 5 different versions just within the company itself.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of fun.
I know in TNA he was kind of, morphing it between Surfer Sting and Crow Sting. It was almost like if both Stings have a baby. That's what it was. That's what I mean. I was more okay if that was the one we came with the WWE or even AEW Sting, but it just feels like. I mean, it's cool to see him nowadays in AEW, but he comes down. He doesn't. Even, he wears his tights, but he wears a shirt. I guess he's ashamed what his body looks like.
Yeah. I mean, he's an older guy. I don't know his exact age. He's probably maybe late 50s. I don't know, maybe 60 years old. I don't know how old he is exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure he's not muscle. I mean, he's not as big as he was when he was Surfer Sting. He doesn't look like he's chiseled out of stone.
Oh yeah, or even before that. Even before. Oh, sorry.
Wearing all the black, it works for that gimmick. It works for that character. Even in like the AEW, wearing the whatever, it works for him. It is what it is. I mean, Sting is one of those guys that just because I do like the character so much, I give a lot of passes too because of it. You know what I mean? Like, I would let a lot slip because he's my favorite guy. But, we all have our favorites and whatever. But, it's just one of those things. But, the WCW for me, like I said, I was a Southern kid growing up. Of course, like I said, I watched WWF, but it was always number 2 to me. I liked the presentation that WCW put out. I loved when I saw that Monday Nitro set with the giant WCWs and steel on both sides, fireworks. That is still my all-time favorite Monday night setup. And the one thing that I know WWF did it too with their pay-per-views, but the WCW sets for their pay-per-views were iconic to me. My all-time favorite setup is the Halloween Havoc setup. You had the gigantic pumpkin and the tombstones and all of that stuff. I always thought that was so cool. Like whenever I was growing up and I had all the wrestling action figures, I wanted that play set to put my figures in, but they never made the thing. I was like, just give me one, you know what I mean? WCW, it was, to me, it was the perfect mix of old and new because it had the old school storytelling from the NWA days, but then you had Eric Bischoff come in and he's like, we're going to make this more real. We're going to make this feel legit, and when WWF was doing like Duke the Dumpster Drozy and the Goon and the Gobbledygooker and all of these stupid characters, you had WCW, and obviously they had their characters too, especially in the Jim Herd era. You had the ding dongs and all of the stupid gimmicks that WCW had. But the Eric Bischoff era of WCW to me is my favorite time in wrestling. It was so cool. And a lot of things happened in that era. I mean, Eric Bischoff, he kind of made luchador style wrestling big and famous because he's the one that brought him in, put him on American TV.
Yeah.
Even WWF hadn't done that yet. ECW hadn't done that yet. WCW did.
No, actually, ECW was doing it before WCW. That's why. Yeah, that's where Rey Mysterio. Okay. You had Rey Mysterio came from there. Psychosis. Juventud, I believe. So and Eddie was in
Teddy
ECW.
Guerrero. See, my favorite luchador is La Parca. You remember him?
Yeah.
The guy that had the skeleton costume? Oh, it's J-Man. Watch out. Run. Casey, run. It's J-Man. He's coming.
No, no, it's my dog. He's. It's funny about that damn door. No, this little dog can like hit his head on it and open it. And not only that, my Roomba that my mom has, that can push it open and come in here. And what's funny, that Roomba would not only close that door behind it, it would close this bathroom door and get it
Really?
stuck in that bathroom. But I was happy
That's
that
hilarious.
I was happy you saw that. I was like, oh no, it's J-Man.
So to say, if J-Man's doing run-ins on your channel now, we're really blowing this gimmick up. Holy hell, this is getting crazy.
Well, I mean,
Oh, no.
I can understand that. I mean, gosh, they made WCW. I mean, like when you said Eric Bischoff, I think that's what we really needed. I mean, yeah, you have
It
Shawn
was.
Michaels. You had Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in the WWF, and they were doing their thing. But I mean, if they didn't, Eric Bischoff didn't make it more real. I don't know what would have been. I
Well,
mean,
one thing that WCW can say that nobody else will ever be able to is they beat the big bad WWF for 83 weeks in a row. And this was WWF in its prime, not what it is now, where it's in shambles and everything else.
oh
You had
yeah,
Steve Austin, Rock, Undertaker, Kane, all the top guys for 83 weeks. WCW beat them. No matter what it costs, you can never take that away, and that to me speaks volumes. I mean, hell, Eric Bischoff named his podcast after it because it was
yeah.
such a popular thing. You know, it's just I don't know. It was all cool. Like, did you ever watch WCW much? I mean, where did you
Uh,
like?
I was more a WWF fan, but
Right?
yeah. See, I started apparently way later than you did. I would see phases because my parents, they're like, I don't think they can ban me from watching it, but they're like, oh, it's that fake shit. And what was so what they would
That fake
do
shit.
during the Monday nights, everyone, I'm like, my cable box. This is when you literally had to go up and press the button, and
Oh yeah,
both Raw and Nitro were on. Like the very next channel, Raw would be
yeah. They're right next to each
like if
other.
you
Yeah,
hit, you hit like the top button, Nitro be on, and if you commercial, you hit the bottom button, and Raw will be on.
right.
And but yeah, I started about 90 late 97, 98 during the Stone Cold
Oh,
era.
so you were like, so
I'm a
you
bag.
started. The NWO was already huge by the
Yeah,
time you got into it. Then,
yeah. I was pretty much a bandwagoner. I finally sat down. I mean, my best friend was watching it, and the people I was hanging around, and then my brother
right?
and his people was watching it. So I was like, screw it. And I was hearing about Stone Cold. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna turn it on, and I was pretty hooked by after that. But
Yeah, I still remember that I was watching Bash at the Beach '96 when Hogan turned heel. Like we bought that pay per view, and that I remember being a kid. Let's see, I was 9 years old at the time when that happened, and Hulk Hogan came down, and when he dropped that leg on Macho Man, I was like, holy crap, Hogan's the third guy. I didn't even expect it. You know, I mean, Hulk Hogan was the ultimate good guy, right? Whatever.
yeah.
And whenever he turned, boy, that was something else. That I could still see it in my head. It was so cool.
Well, let me ask you: Did you think who did you at that time, did you have an idea who it might would have been, or
I I always thought it was going to be somebody else that was leaving WWF because if you look back at it, you had Scott Hall and Kevin Nash that had
yeah,
just recently came. I
yeah,
didn't think it was going to be somebody within the company, and I never expected Hulk Hogan. I never expected Sting. I never expected Luger. None of those guys. I didn't expect any of them. And when Hogan came down, I thought, oh, Hogan's here to save the day. He sees Macho Man in trouble. We know their history, and it's a troubled one and back and forth and whatever. But when Hogan came down and he dropped that leg on Macho, I was like, holy crap, this is like, whoa. Like that next day at school, that's all that was talked about. I was
oh
like,
yeah,
oh, did you see what happened? Blah, 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 whatever, right? And it was just so cool. I mean, the NWO story, besides the Undertaker, my three favorite storylines in wrestling are Undertaker Kane, McMahon Austin, and the NWO versus Sting. That's my top three storylines of the modern era, let's say. I'm not counting the 80s on back. I'm
yeah,
counting modern day stuff that I got to see in person and everything else. And, the NWO, even before DX, made it popular to like the bad guys.
oh yes,
Everybody wanted the NWO shirt.
hmm
I have a picture of me somewhere of a homemade NWO Wolfpack T-shirt where I was Wolfpack Sting for Halloween. My mom bought a plain black T-shirt and that
yeah,
puff paint, like you can get in the art section, and she drew a
oh
red.
yeah,
She drew
yeah.
she drew a red NWO on the chest of the shirt, and then I painted my face red, whatever. It was all good, but
That's
the
not bad.
NWO, that was just so much fun. Oh, it was great. I look back on it and I treasure it.
Well, I was gonna say that's not a bad idea.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, I mean,
oh
even the early days in NWO, a lot of times they'll just spray paint. So I mean,
right, yeah, it's literally the same thing. It was the Walmart equivalent of making an NWO shirt. It
yeah.
was like $2 for a shirt and a couple bucks for a deal of paint, whatever. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was the first pay-per-view that I ever bought was Starrcade '97. That was
Oh yeah,
where Sting fought Hogan for big gold. And
you bought that?
obviously, I know.
You
Yes, out of my obviously, I was just a kid. I was only
yeah,
10 years old, but I actually saved up my own money and gave it to my dad to buy that pay per view. I'll
nice.
never forget that pay per view as long as I live. And whenever Sting finally won, I popped like I that that was my. I've never been more of a mark in my life than I was that night because I was just happy as hell to watch Sting win the world title. But it was great. I'll always treasure that pay per view, even though it was a screw job ending and all the
Yeah.
controversy, whatever. I don't care. I love it to this day. So
At least he got the win. I mean, I don't. I heard that two things. Either Nick Patrick forgot, that's why he did the normal three count, or the
yeah,
rumor is that Hogan got to him and said do a slow count. So
yeah. I I'm more inclined to believe that Hogan said, "Hey, this guy's not ready," because I mean it's famous at this point that Sting was having marital problems. He had I believe it was an alcohol addiction or something that he had at the time. So he
uh
wasn't in the best place mentally whenever this match came around. And like that whole excuse of he's not tan, he wasn't muscly enough, and Hogan went to
oh
Bischoff about
really?
certain things. Oh yeah, like I said, go back and listen to the 83 Weeks episode where they talk about this, and they like Eric Bischoff just gets down. He just tells you the truth, his version of the truth for whatever it's worth. But how all these pro wrestling guys try to make themselves look like the good guys on their podcasts. But you know, it's
Oh,
a it was just it was a monumental moment for me in wrestling that I will always treasure. It's one of those things.
Well, I know one thing about this podcast. I mean, I love listening to them. Like a lot of times, I'll listen to Bruce Pritchard's one.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes, a lot of times, the main ones I would listen to is the Solid Monster. But
Oh, okay.
also I would listen to Eric Bischoff every once in a while, and Jeff
Oh, yeah.
Jarrett's, and all the Conrad. Uh,
Conrad Thompson does good work. I like how he structures his podcast,
he's
and
smart man.
he's funny, and he's smart enough to know. Like my favorite thing that he does is he calls the guys on their bull crap. He doesn't just
Yeah,
let them off the hook. You know,
I
I mean,
agree. He does.
on the Starcade '97 episode, Eric and Conrad are straight up yelling at each other, and Conrad is just giving him the business in them. Like I said, anybody who hasn't listened to it, I can't recommend this enough. This is a must listen. It's like a couple hours long, whatever it
I
is,
got to
but
hear
it's
that.
tremendous. Oh, it's great. It's amazing. And like I said, I'm obviously a mark for WCW. I think that's kind of why I feel the way I do about modern pro wrestling,
Hmm.
because it's just not as entertaining. When I look at AEW, there's like 3 or 4 guys that I pay any attention to. And modern day WWE is the same way. There's 2 or 3 that I pay attention to, and that's about it. I can't watch a full show anymore. I get bored. I want to go do something else. I don't care anymore.
I
It's not for me. I'll go back and watch the old stuff.
I hate to bring this up. I think one of the reasons that what shows no like what AEW and WWE what feels like it slows the product down. I'm going to sound like an asshole or sexist, but I hate the women wrestling. I really
Same,
do.
100%, 100%. Yeah, women's wrestling. It's kind of like Jim Cornette says. The women matches are the same as the midget matches. You don't need half of them on a card. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I mean, yes, I understand. I don't care if you call me sexist. You call me whatever the hell you want to. You're not. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Women. The only way I want to see women wrestling is in their underwear or in about it. I don't need to see them in a. I don't need to see them in a Hell in the Cell or in any of these other things. I don't care. They
You
suck
know,
at it.
you know what? I actually kind of like those versions of those matches with the women. The only thing I just back in the late '90s, with yes, it was cool to see Sable as hot as she was. She
Gorgeous.
honestly, the only thing she could really do is the power bomb, the Sable
Mm-hmm.
bomb. But you didn't watch that for wrestling. You watched it so God forbid. I mean, I wouldn't say
Because
God
it made you
forbid.
horny. Because you were a
Yeah,
kid that made you horny.
yeah. I'm
Let's be
like,
real here.
yeah, I'm like, especially when they painted hands on her tits.
Oh my God, that was. I'll never forget that.
I'm shocked how they got away with that. Was that paper? I'm wondering, was that a pay per view or a normal show?
I think that was a Monday Night Raw, wasn't it?
I am not sure.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember, honestly. I don't know. I don't know. But see, once again, that was the thing. I mean, wrestling in the 90s, whether it was WWF or WCW, on the WCW side, you had the Nitro Girls. You
Yes.
had, and that's another thing that Eric Bischoff brought to the table to kind of keep the crowd invested or whatever, right? And, I mean, my my favorite 90s chick was Kimberly Page, the
Mm.
head chick of WCW Nitro Girls, which was Diamond Dallas Page's wife at the time.
Yeah.
I liked her more than Sadie. I still like her more than Sadie.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, she
Oh yeah.
is she is hot, but if I had to choose between one or the other, I would go with Sable.
Oh no, for me, Kimberly Page was out of all the wrestling chicks of the '90s, she was my favorite. There's no competition. Sable's number 2 or 3, whatever, but Kimberly Page is one. There's no question about that.
But I mean, but I feel like because of all that, it tainted women's wrestling for me. Yeah, when they started to bring it up, what in the last what 7 years with the women's revolution.
Well, let me ask you this question: if you're gonna watch a baseball or a basketball game, are you gonna watch the NBA or the WNBA?
Honestly, NBA. I mean,
And
yeah,
why is that? Because the men are the better athletes, right?
yeah.
They're bigger, they're stronger, they're more naturally prone to these things. You know, this isn't a sexist thing. This
I'm
is a
sorry.
scientific based thing. This is what this is. You know
I'm
what I mean?
sorry.
So,
I'm sorry, Tex. Did you hear my dog kind of like barking? He's like, woof, woof.
oh, it's all good. Dogs bark.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh,
He's,
there.
damn
Oh,
it, J-Man, get out of
let
the
me,
house. This is ridiculous.
let me. I'll just edit that out. Maybe,
Fuck 'em.
maybe not. Who gives a fuck?
Leave it in. We'll give them something to laugh at.
So,
But yeah,
but
it's all
yeah,
good.
uh, so yeah, I feel like women's wrestling's tainted. But like you said, no,
Eh,
I feel like I'm not a big basketball fan at all. But if you put a
no,
gun
but
to
me asking the basketball question is not about basketball. You could you, you could import any sport where there's a men's and a women's division.
mm,
Men, if you're gonna watch for a competitive sake, you're gonna pick the men's side because they're better at it. It's
yeah,
just the way that it is.
and God forbid you be honest about that,
Well,
without being labeled something. I mean,
you can label me whatever you want. You can fuck off while you're doing it too. So it's all good. So
so I feel like honestly, if AEW and WWE, I hate to say it, if they take it out, I think it would be almost a better product.
you know, hang on one second.
That's okay.
I had to be a father for a minute. You know how life goes. But yeah,
No, that's cool.
it's you know, I don't like to see a bunch of women who build themselves like wrestling. Oh, there's the damn it, J-Man. Get the fuck out of that. Hang on, wait.
Let me
Are
hold
we
on.
sure that are we sure that J-Man's alive? Because his spirit may be haunting your house. So that's what that door keeps coming up back and forth.
Well, honestly, I feel sometimes with this house, I don't believe in haunted house, but
Oh, I do.
the thing is, a lot of times I swear, like I'll be watching something, I swear I see my mom in the corner, and then I look over and she's not. I'm like, okay, that's creepy, but
Oh
I
yeah.
don't.
I've seen shit in my house that scared the britches off of me. I mean, spirits and shit. That's a whole different kind of podcast we can do. But it's legit. I'm 100% convinced. But anyways, the whole wrestling thing. It's the women's. Yes, you had your women wrestlers in the '90s, like the China types that
Mm,
were kind of the proto for what we're seeing now. But
yeah.
women, at one point in time, women like Sable were just as popular as Stone Cold Steve
Mm,
Austin. Why is that?
exactly.
Because they played off of her natural gifts or the ones that she bought from the doctor's office. Either way, it doesn't matter. Uh,
I agree.
you know, it came off better. And I miss 90s wrestling. It
Oh,
was
I agree.
edgier. You had, like, with the whole argument of the whole TV 14 thing. Well,
Mm.
TV 14 is not going to fix anything if you have a crap product to do it with.
Oh yeah.
If you don't care about who's doing it, it can be rated X and it's not going to do anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally
So
agree. I
it
did
is
a
what it is.
I did a solo video when I was hearing the rumor of TV 14. It's like that doesn't mean jack shit if like you said,
Right,
if the creative is horrible. I mean,
right.
like you said, it could be rated X and the fucking thing will still be awful. You have
Well,
you have to get rid of the person who's gone now, and
well,
that's
look at it
Vince.
this way. look at the 90s from the WCW side, because this is what this podcast is about. You
Yeah.
had Sting, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, the rest of the Four Horsemen, Chris Benoit before he killed his whole family. You know, you had Dean Malenko. You had all the luchador guys.
Yes.
You had Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Scott Steiner, one of my favorites of all time. You know, you had Rick Steiner. You had the Road Warriors were in WCW.
Yeah.
So many guys, huge personalities.
Cruiserweights.
Oh yeah, the cruiserweights. You had, and one of, and it's cheesy going to back look at it now. But do you remember the Dungeon of the
Oh yes.
the Dungeon of Doom?
Yeah.
Where it was King Curtis was playing like the old guy, and you had Kevin Sullivan as Taskmaster, and you had Pat. I can't do a WCW podcast without talking about the Yeti that came out in Butt Rape Hobo. Do you remember?
I seen clips of that. That was before
Yeah.
me, but I seen clips, and I think him being called the Yeti is stupid.
Yeti. Shout out to Tony Schiavone, by the way. It's great. So
I mean, he's a mummy. I mean, he's not
right.
Yeti. I mean, like
he should have been the mummy.
Zach. I mean, I can understand if the guy comes out all hairy, then they like, okay, call him the Yeti. But
I mean,
it
was so much fun. I remember those Dungeon of Doom segments, watching those live, and I'm like, this is the greatest pro wrestling I've ever seen in my life. This is too cool. And like I said, it was obviously cheesy 90s when it, you know, Hulk Hogan's coming out wearing a Phantom of the Opera mask, carrying a sword, you know, and some of these feature heads. It was just so fun. It was so good. You know, there's so many things about the WCW stuff that I said.
Oh, sorry.
You know, what you think is best is going to be different from what I think is best.
Oh yeah.
It's all relative to, you know, our situations, whatever. But for me, I'll always be a WCW guy till I die. I mean, there's just no way around it. You know
what I mean? Well, I mean, that's at least a good thing. I mean, about the WWE Network. I mean, you got all that. I mean,
right.
I mean, that's one thing I do praise WWE for is the network until they went to fucking Peacock. That thing's garbage.
Oh, it sucks now.
Yeah.
Oh, Peacock sucks. WWE Network, you could put in Monday Nitro, go to a year, and you could go week by week and watch it like you was live. Peacock, it's in seasons or something. I forget how.
Yeah.
I don't even have Peacock anymore, just because I'm not going to pay for that garbage. It's, you know, I'd rather go on YouTube and find clips of it on YouTube than pay for that nonsense. But I don't know. It's for me, WCW hit at a time. I started out as a youth with it. Like I said, it was my first encounter with pro wrestling. And then in my younger years, in my formative years, that's when I watched the most of. And WWF was, of course, I saw Steve Austin and Undertaker because Undertaker's number 2 for me. You know, it's one of those things. But if I were to ever do a top 10 list of my favorite wrestlers, I would say 6 to 7 of them would be WCW guys. And most of them people would probably scoff at because they're not top guys, but they were guys that I love to watch. You know what I mean? So.
Well, that doesn't mean. I mean, they don't have to be top guys to be like.
Oh, of course not. No.
I mean, yeah. When Chris Benoit, I thought it took him forever to get that world belt from not only the WCW. It took him 5 years in the WWE before winning the world belt, and that was his only time he held it. Yeah, he was the Intercontinental Champion several times, and the United States Champion, but he was one. He's like Daniel. I mean, that's why Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. I thought like, holy, like that's Chris Benoit without the crazy tendencies, apparently.
Without murdering his family, yeah. 100%.
I mean, it's like dude, that would be like the match of the century right there is if you had Benoit versus Bryan Danielson. Each one of them switching between submission moves.
I was never about the technical side of wrestling. Like, I never, oh, did you see that match between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah? And they wrestled for 20 minutes and it was a struggle back and forth. I've always been a big character guy. And I'm not talking about Giant Gonzalez and the crap character. I'm talking about personalities in wrestling.
Yeah.
And personalities like a Ric Flair, like a Sting, like a Hogan, like a Macho, like whoever it is, right? Like an Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of those guys, they weren't the most technically sound wrestlers. They were never the Chris Benoits or the Daniel Bryans. So for me, like a dream match is like Sting versus Hogan, Starrcade '97. The match wasn't great. You go back and watch it. It's just,
well, it was,
but it was the atmosphere of it.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes when they promote something so much and you're hyped, and then when you get to it, and when you're a kid, you're watching it with, what is it, rosy red glasses, whatever they call it.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. But now you go back and, like, it's a freaking turd. But,
well, look at it this way. Sting versus Hogan, Sting didn't wrestle for 18 months. The hype for that match was an 18-month build where you may or may not see Sting up in the rafters on Monday Night Nitro.
Mm-hmm.
He would pop up here, he'd pop up there. He didn't have a full match for a year and a half. So, yeah, it was built up to be the biggest thing ever. And in many fans' minds, it was built up, just like you said, to be bigger than whatever it was actually going to be.
Yeah.
And it suffered for it, but it is what it is. I mean, that's how it crumbled. So you got to deal with it.
Well, sometimes it's like, I remember WWE did, a couple years ago. This is during the pandemic. I think it was Randy Orton versus Edge or something. No, it's Randy Orton and someone else. But it was the greatest match of all time. I'm like, how could you say? And they've been promoting that for a while before the match happened, and I don't remember how it was. I'm like, and I guarantee you, it's not the greatest match of all time because I'm sure it was a good match, but there's other.
That's kind of like how Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania was the most stupendous main event of all time, or something like that.
You know what?
It's, they do what they do. I don't blame them for building up a main event.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well,
it's stupid, but I don't blame them.
Well, I thought it was kind of cool because they're unifying the belts at WrestleMania, but the best match between those, it was either the most recent one or
the SummerSlam was great.
Yeah. Or WrestleMania 31 when they first met. And because when Seth Rollins won the belt because the Money in the Bank. But all right. I do got a story I think you'll get a kick out of. This is pretty much related to WCW. So at my parents' old house, we had cable. It was called Heartland Wireless Cable. And what it is, they had this giant ass pole coming out of your house with a satellite dish at the top. And this is, I guess, before everyone had DirecTV and Dish. This is before that got popular. So, what was funny, during the dying years of WCW, I would get a lot of them for free. Because,
really?
I think what happened was that someone around us would order it, and somehow our satellite would leech onto it. It's
Oh,
not
like
like,
bleed over or something.
yeah, it's not like,
That's
oh,
cool.
my parents never did anything like, oh, let's get the black box and steal this pay per view. I mean, I watched WWF pay per views through the scrambles before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Every once in a while, you get like enough to see a picture
Yeah.
for like 2 seconds, and then yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
The kids nowadays don't understand our pain we went through.
Oh, they have no clue. Oh, yeah.
You know,
Now,
the
you do a lot of like vintage stores, so I'm sure you've ran across these. Have you ever seen the vibrator WCW action figures?
no. Seen some toys, but I mean, I actually had the Macho Man wrestling buddy.
Okay.
But
Well,
this is
these were like probably 7-inch scale. They're like hard plastic and they're bigger. But
yeah,
there's a little red button under the left arm. The next time you're on one of your game hunts and they have action figures, look
yeah,
for these things because and anybody who's watching this, y'all may or may not know what I'm talking about. But these things were legit vibrators for children. It literally what
oh
these
no,
things because it was a hard piece of plastic and you pushed the button on it and it vibrated. And it
no.
was like they weren't they weren't like articulated and everything like the new ones are. You remember this is mid to late '90s when they came out,
Yeah,
and I want to say they were the original San Francisco toy maker ones. I believe. I think that's the company that made it. I may still have some put up somewhere, but these things were hilarious because they were like the Scott Hall one.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like Scott Hall whatsoever. It's I mean he's wearing the gear, but the face looks nothing like it. It's like generic wrestler with facial stubble on it painted on his
Oh really?
head. Oh, it's hilarious. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff, and like this whole WCW thing, this can be multiple parts or whatever. I don't know how
Yeah,
long you've gone.
I'm okay.
But
I mean,
are you?
we uh you know what I told you earlier, it's not a big deal, but I'm
Right,
pretty open for the night because I'm by myself tonight and for the
right.
day. But the only thing I have to do is I have to go into work tomorrow. But
Yeah, I've got a couple hours for you. The kids are wanting to do something later, but I've got a little time to kill. But
yeah.
yeah, for me, the WCW stuff, like I said, it's even like the late '90s,
Hmm.
even 2000 year. I know it's not good wrestling. I know it's cheap TV. It's kind of tacky and trashy because of the whole Vince Russo stuff. But I I enjoyed WCW all the way through, and I watched it all the way through. And whenever it went away, that I could. It's almost fair to say that that's when I started to like wrestling a little bit less year by year.
No,
Honestly, you know what I mean?
I
And
can understand that.
obviously, I enjoyed the ruthless aggression era because you still had some WCW guys here and there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the same. You had Goldberg. Goldberg was one of the biggest stars, and he was built up to be one of the best of all time, right?
Yeah.
They have him wearing a gold dust wig on WWE TV.
Oh yeah, that was horrible.
I was like, what are you like? You would never do this to Stone Cold Steve Austin. You never
Oh
saw him in
no.
a gold dust wig. You know what I mean? It was they put Booker T with once again gold dust, and he's doing the stuttering, whatever messed up gimmick thing. I
I
don't know.
kind
It
of
was
like
weird.
that because he got electric. I remember he got electrocuted because someone, I think it was Evolution, threw him into a electrical panel, and
It was something like that.
yeah, and it was funny as hell.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
Right.
times, like this is right after WWE name change, and he was like WWE. So I'm like, he's obviously, you know, trying to toe that line because obviously you can't say WWF nowadays. Well, WWE can kind of get away with that a little bit. It'd be
Well, they don't say it now because obviously they've got the whole gimmick and the brand going with WWE.
yeah,
But it, even they blur out WWF on the old footage and stuff. And like when they sell, like the other day, I was in Walmart and I saw a classic action, or it was a new action figure, but it was in classic
yeah,
packaging. But
yeah,
they had the old WWF logo, but the F part was cut off. It was just the two
yeah.
W's. You know what I mean? So
You know why that happened?
okay.
Because they were doing old school Raw with the old WWF logo,
Oh yeah.
and they apparently pissed them off again. So they're like, "You can't use that logo." I mean, so they thought they can get away because it's not the scratch logo; it was the old
Right.
WWF logo. So that's when they had to cut that F off of it. I mean, it still looks cool, but if you're gonna get like a belt and you got the block letter WWE version, I think that's the worst one you can ever get. I mean, that's why I was happier than pig and shit when I picked up my WWF Big Eagle belt, the one that
Oh yeah.
Stone Cold. I
Oh
mean, during
oh
the
oh yeah.
Attitude Year.
Oh yeah. With the big round plate on it.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was like one of my top favorite belts.
Now when you're out doing your vintage hunting, how much WCW stuff do you come across?
You know what? These stores, I don't know if you heard them before, but it's called Vintage Stock. They have several around here, and I know there's some in Missouri, and I think there might be some in Arkansas. But I'm not sure if there's any in Texas.
I have no
But
idea.
it's like what cool is about the store is that they have toys, uh, movies, tapes, movies, DVDs, Blu-rays,
Oh wow.
music, and then lately they've been getting into like swords. Like
I'm gonna
actually,
grab a drink, but I'm listening to you
they were having swords now, like full-fledged swords, and then now they're selling nunchucks, and now they're selling like airsoft pellet guns that look like the real thing. But I mean, I look at the toys there, but the main reason I go there is obviously for the video games because but nowadays they've been consolidating their video game section and they're
talk. Oh
having
yeah.
they're having more of these sections with like new toys with the fucking pops
Oh
and
yeah.
all those trinkets, whatever they call. You go games,
Jenkins.
yeah.
Is that like a tiny little Chinese person?
Uh, you know how you go into GameStop, it's no longer really wall to wall games. Like half of it's like just a bunch of trinkets or
Trinkets. There you go. Yeah.
and knickknacks or whatever toys, and then the other half
Right.
is games. So that's what this vintage stock is starting to like. But I see a
Oh,
lot of
cool.
wrestling toys.
Yeah.
There's yeah, and what's cool, there's a toy store not too far. Um shouldn't say where it's located,
So
but
you gotta say, let's not out ourselves here.
yeah. But it has a bunch of cool toys. And it used to have this location is just mainly toys. Well, there Other locations more in the high end area, so that's where all the fucking video games and it's priced out through the yin yang. But
Right.
you really need to see the toys they have here. It's outrageous, but a lot of times they'll have wrestlers. There's a few times they had autographs. It's like, dude, I should pick this up, but I really don't have the freaking room to put any of this shit.
See, there's well, one of the action figure sets because I'm a big action figure collector. I collect horror figures, certain DC comic guys, and I collect certain wrestler action figures of my personal favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So Mattel, because I think it's Mattel. Well, I guess no. Technically, it would be whoever makes the AEW figures. Well,
Oh,
no,
Jack.
technically Jazzwares. That's it. Anyway, no, I would love to have a 2-pack of Surfer Sting with RoboCop with the
Oh
steel
my.
shark cage. If I think it's Ringside Collectibles is the website or WrestlingFigures.com, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But if somehow you could make a 2-pack of Surfer Sting and RoboCop with the shark cage that RoboCop rips the door off of, I
Yeah.
will send you my money happily. I will buy multiple copies of this thing because I think that would be so cool to have sitting on a shelf. Just because that was another one of those WCW moments for somebody like me that was just, holy crap, you got RoboCop. You know what I mean? This is the coolest thing ever. So,
Well, I mean, back then it worked. I don't know if you could do that nowadays. Like Manchester WWE does that or AEW, they would get shit on so fast.
wait, hang on a minute. Didn't AEW have freaking Scooby Doo or something? Like in the early days of it? I'm pretty
AEW?
sure they did. Yeah.
Not that I know of. You know
I think
what? I know one day it was their Halloween special that they were dressed up. A lot of the wrestlers dressed up as a bunch of characters.
okay,
But
it may have been that. I don't know. I don't. All I know is I saw a one of the horror things I follow on Twitter posted a Scooby Doo and AEW thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean?
I think
But
that's
once again, that's a callback to WCW because whenever Bride of Chucky came out, Chucky was at WCW and he interacted with Rick Steiner and Mean Gene Okerlund. That clip's on
oh
YouTube as well.
yeah.
You know, so there's a precedent for it here. You know, it's one of those things. But
I
I don't know. There's just so many fun memories for me of this stuff. You
I heard that promo was actually pretty bad. Like that they got the
know? I
timing
liked
off.
it.
I heard the
Yeah,
timing got off a little bit.
I think because Brad Dourif is the guy that voices Chucky.
Yeah.
I think they pre-recorded his lines. I've never heard one way or the other, but you could tell how Rick and Mean Gene were interacting with the doll because obviously the doll was backstage. It was like
Yeah.
set up in a movie chair or something. So it wasn't like, they couldn't walk the doll down to the ring and have it interact or anything. They might could nowadays, but they couldn't back
Probably
then.
CGI that shit.
Yeah, they'll do whatever. They'll figure it. They could have done it during the days when there wasn't a crowd and they could just edit it all together. It would have been hilarious. But I don't know. There's so much of this stuff that obviously. I mean, I mentioned him here a minute ago, but Scott Steiner. I
Yeah.
love Big Papa Pump is still one of my favorite wrestling personalities of all time. Just tremendous. He would get crap. He would crap on everybody. You're fat. You're fat. My freaks and my peaks, and I'm the big booty daddy, and all of his
Yeah.
nonsense. It
I'm
was
not
so much fun.
I'm not gonna lie. I stole some of those when I was younger to when I was
Oh, we all
on
did.
well, I mean when I was on the chat rooms, I would steal shit like that. Like I am the big bad booty daddy. So it's like But
That's hilarious.
talk about kind of gimmick matches is kind of topic. But I seen a YouTube video of a referee refereeing two invisible wrestlers fighting. All and the only
Two
way,
invisible wrestlers.
yeah. So the
Oh
guy,
yeah.
so what happens is the referee's wearing these goggles so that he can see the invisible wrestlers. So you can see the
Oh,
referee bouncing around, counting stuff, and then just sometimes there'll be like a table right there, and it would just break out of nowhere, just falls apart. And
what promotion was this?
I don't know. I had to find that and I had to send it to her. It was actually pretty
Yeah, you'll have to
entertaining.
send me that.
It was actually pretty entertaining. So I mean, but I know you love your WCW belts. So obviously I took
Hell
down the two one I got, but
yeah.
um
Hell
I what did you find about like the television belt?
the television belt, I always liked it, but it wasn't my favorite of the WCW belts. My favorite is obviously Big Gold. Big Gold is my
Yes.
favorite championship of all time.
That-
It was designed,
Right.
I believe, the stories I've heard, it was designed by Dusty Rhodes. See, that's the WWE version. If you go
Yes.
back and you look at the WCW, that top point is curved back on the. If you go back
Oh,
and you watch,
well, actually, there's one point I think you could see like when Booker T won the belt, this top is bent backwards, and it's
yeah, that's
not.
what I'm talking about. Yeah,
It's damaged. It was
yeah, that's
damaged
what I'm
like
saying.
that. But
It but the big goal that WCW had, whenever WWE made that one, that's a
yes,
smaller version of what
is
Big
it?
Gold was. Yeah, the WCW version was actually bigger. It it had a few different design elements that were a little bit different,
Yeah.
but it like that to me is the best looking belt of all time
I,
because like I said from the stories I've heard, it was designed by Dusty Rhodes. Now I don't know if I believe that or not. It's been a long time ago, but it was designed to look like a big Western belt buckle. This is the story that has been told why Dusty Rhodes made that
I
one. I
heard
think it's gorgeous.
I I heard differently, but I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who knows at this point? I mean, it's all
yeah.
legend stuff that happened 40 years ago or whatever. But to me, that title is absolutely gorgeous. Even that WWE version right there, I think
Yes.
it's just awesome looking.
I
Like,
but I we both agree that having their brand on there is
oh
abomination.
yeah, that WWE logo, that's blasphemous having it on that title. That has no business being on
I agree. When they got this, I was like, when they had a couple years, they didn't have that. But
there.
of course, they had to put their fucking logo on it. But the
Oh, of
thing
course, yeah.
I kind of like it. It's kind of the main plates. I think it's a slightly curved. I like it where it's not fully flat, but it's kind of flat. But
Well,
the side plates are a little
side
bit
plates
more.
are curved, yeah.
Yeah, but
Love that.
I agree. I really love this.
Beautiful
Is like
belt.
between this one and Big Eagle is is like right there. It's kind of hard to. They're
Well,
both top belts to me.
Big Gold, it's classy looking.
Yes,
It's prestigious looking. It's very much like the NWA 10 pounds of gold. You
the
look at it
dome.
and you automatically know what it is.
You talking about the
It's
dome belt,
yeah,
right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
The dome globe they call it or whatever it
Yeah.
is. The 10 pounds of gold, yeah. Like now, like I like WWE's new modern belts where it's got the big
Mm.
WWE. I like it. I like the shape of the belt. I like the size of it. I think it. like I said, I'm probably in the minority, but I like the brightly colored belts. One of my favorites of all time, I believe it wasn't the United States title. I forget which one it is, but WCW had a red belt. I can't remember which one it
Mm.
was, but it was a red strapped belt. It may have even been an NWA belt. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you're
But
talking about the United States belt before it became like this one right here. I pulled this one out, but I
oh,
think
see, that one's gorgeous. I love that belt. That to me, that's like hold that one up there where they can get that main plate. I love the design of that plate. Like
yes.
my favorite thing about that is that rectangle on top where it says WCW
Oh,
because it
really?
doesn't. I like it because it doesn't fit with the rest of the belt. It's eye catching and it makes it look different. You would normally think that would kind of curve out on top and smooth out, but to have that hard rectangle shape, it makes it
Yeah.
stand out a little bit more. That's what I love about that belt. I think it's gorgeous.
You know what's interesting? I didn't really notice until having the physical, the Intercontinental title, the one before the modern one now, the classic kind of look where
Yeah.
it had so much common similarities with the United this version of the United States belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking, I was like, holy shit, there's a lot of similarities. Like the banners in the same area. You got
Well,
three.
I mean, all of these wrestling companies copy off of each other as they go along.
Yeah.
There's nothing original, you know what I mean? I mean, if one company does something good, the other one does their version of it. It is what it is. But like that
ECW ECW was a big time on that because
oh
their tag team belt was the Intercontinental belt, and their television belt was the Big Eagle belt. No, not Big Eagle, Wing Eagle, the one.
winged it.
Yeah, that's the most people pretty much praise as the top version of WWF belt, you know.
Right. Yeah,
But
like I watched ECW when it was live or when it as it was going on, but I
yeah,
never got it. Like for me, I would always find it at like midnight on TV or something. It was
mm,
always like super duper late. Like you knew Nitro was going to be on at 7 o'clock.
mm-hmm.
Raw would be on at 7 o'clock. You know, ECW, whatever their show was called. I don't even know if their show had a name or if it was just ECW.
I think on
But
TNN it was just ECW.
well, that's what I'm
But
saying. I don't know if they had like an abbreviation name or whatever. But I don't know. It was, like I said, you know, if I miss the days of whenever I was a kid, you had your WWF kids, your WCW kids. You know, you had your NWO versus your DX. Are
yes.
you a Goldberg or are you a Stone Cold guy? And what was so funny was nobody was ever purely one side. You
Oh
couldn't
no.
just be one side. Like I chose obviously WCW and NWO over DX and WWF, but I
Yeah.
would go Steve Austin over Goldberg. You know, so it was and of course I loved Undertaker. And I loved all these other guys, right?
Yeah.
So it was that was the Monday Night Wars. It wasn't just what you saw on TV; it was happening on the playground and
Oh
in
hell yeah.
your hallways in your school and your whatever, right? It was just so much. I am so happy I got to see that live
Hmm.
because, I mean, I still enjoy watching the documentaries about it, but it's nothing like getting to actually live through it yourself and have those memories of it. It was too
You
cool.
know, it's interesting you said the documentaries. A lot of times I used to collect the WWF slash WWE tapes and DVDs, and
Oh
usually
yeah,
their documentaries are like top notch. It was
oh yeah,
like,
they do great work.
oh yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. They put so much effort into that. Then you're like, wonder like, why is the week to week product is dog
Yeah,
shit.
why is it so bad? I think it comes down to nostalgia. I think it comes down to, you're always going to like what you know better than what you don't.
Mm,
And, you know, I mean, if you had to pick from your favorite movie you've watched 15 times or something that you've never seen, what are you going to pick? You're going to pick the one that you know is already good
yeah,
because we're creatures of
exactly.
comfort, you know.
Yeah,
So when, I don't think that the Attitude Era or the Monday Night War era, whatever you call it, was better wrestling wise. I think, well, I know it was better for star power wise
yes, I
because you
agree.
had Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Ric Flair, Undertaker, Kane, Sting, Goldberg, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Triple H,
Macho.
Shawn Michaels, Macho Man. You had so many. 90s wrestling will never be topped. That
I
obviously
agree.
wrestling in the 80s was huge,
Yes.
but 90s wrestling took that and put it on television and made it even bigger. And it'll never. That's why I mean, I on one of our last recordings that we did with Rose and Compton, I believe I said that wrestling is a niche product anymore,
Hmm.
and it's only becoming more and more that way because they don't have captivating enough stars like they did back then that commanded you watch. Whether you were a WCW or a WWF kid, you were flipping channels on both
Yeah.
sides because you wanted to see, oh, what's the NWO doing? Oh, which vehicle is Steve Austin going to drive into the arena and smash
Yes.
Vince McMahon's car with? Both of these shows had their deal. So whether you were WWF or WCW, you had your team, but everybody was better off for it because
Hmm.
wrestling was interesting, and it wasn't for the matches like it is now. This whole
Yeah.
wrestling war that we're in, I like I said, I've said it before, but I hate technical wrestling. I don't care how good you can get in the ring for 20 minutes and do a gymnastics routine and not sell any moves. I don't care. Tell me a story, make it interesting, and I'll pay attention. So
I
I don't know.
kind of,
I,
I kind,
it's a different product, but it is what it is.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, I honestly, if it's something like star power, I mean, make the story great. But I kind of
Right.
still like when I watch AEW this past week. It was pretty fucking good on Wednesday. But I mean, a lot of times, like I have to have myself sit and watch it, and like it's like if I feel like it's like this is a stinker, so a lot of times I'll let it record after a while, and it's like okay, definitely. I hate to say this again, when it's women, I fast forward.
Yeah.
I still say if they kind of cut that shit out, I hate to say it, I think they would have a better product.
The only women's matches I watch would be like, obviously, my lovely, lovely Alexa Bliss, the love of my life, or like a Carmella because God, is she
Ugh.
fucking hot. But it
Yeah,
depends on how good looking they are. Honestly, if you're some mannish looking woman, I'm not
ugh.
watching. I'm sorry. I don't care. You give me some smoking hot little honey in there. I'm going to tune in for a minute, but I'm not going to take you seriously. It is what it is.
You just kind of hope you hear about like later on. It's like, oh, there was a nip slip,
Oh, that's
and
what like you're thinking wardrobe malfunction, wardrobe malfunction. Come on, guys.
yeah.
It's all good. So,
I remember one time it was like, one of the Bellas. They're having an interview, and one of them, the nipple just pops out of nowhere, and she's like just sitting there, and then like they just had it right there. It's like, oh, like, and I went back. It was like it was on TV for a while. I mean, not like a minute, but it was on there for several
right.
seconds.
It was on there long enough that your eyes picked it up and you were, freeze framing it for your personal workout. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But yeah,
believe
you
me.
do what you got to do.
Well, for me, I mean, you gotta have more than a picture nowadays to get me. to do that. I've grown through even past magazines.
Mhm.
I had to
Oh, of course, yeah.
straight up have to watch porn for that now.
Yeah,
And
I don't have to do that. I don't watch that too often. I don't know. You know, everything has its time, but I agree completely. The women's wrestling,
mhm.
I will always take smoking hot women just entertaining than some mannish looking chick or some 500-pound. What's the name of that new one? Dewdrop or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah,
Or not.
I
What's the
actually
name of the Rock's cousin? Nyla Rose, or is it to me?
Nia
What's her
Jax.
name?
Nia Jax.
Nia Jax. Yeah, good God, she looks like a couch. She's as big as a piece of furniture out there trying to wrestle. It's like
I
I don't want to see this.
I had to give props to Joe Cronin for this, but he named Nia Jax perfectly. I mean, I'm a big guy, so I feel
Right.
like I have the right. But you ever heard him calling her Battle Cow?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was like there's Battle Cow, but I'm like Battle Cow
Oh,
interest
Joe,
on.
I remember what it was. Dewdrop, the newest big gal that's on WWE that I called a couch because her
Oh,
wrestling gear, her, her wrestling gear was literally the pattern of like what your mom's couch or curtains
uh,
would be. It was like a plaid Scottish kind of pattern or whatever. It looked like it was a curtain. I was like, that's furniture material. She made her wrestling outfit out. It was bad. It was like, oh my God. I don't know. Like I said, you call me
I,
sexist. You call me whatever you want. I don't
oh, that's
care. I want to see. I
I'm
want to see hot women prancing around and possibly having their naughty bits fall out. So, yeah.
Tex. I'm a big women's fan, so I'm
Do you
actually
like big women? Is that what you're saying?
I like big women. I like so I'm
I've
actually
seen some of the stuff you've liked on Twitter. It's
I
gotten onto my timeline before. I know what you like. It's all good.
well I mean I toned it down now. I very rarely hit like because I get worried about it. They're like we don't want to see these naked pictures. See, I
Oh,
told
hey,
I
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. I'm like, there's been a couple times Drew even pointed out that he saw the naughtier stuff that I've liked on his timeline because I liked it. I'm like, well, you're welcome. So have a good day. So
for me, I feel Twitter shouldn't have that. They shouldn't have, oh, this person liked this. Should see what they like. I mean,
right, yeah.
how many times I got in fucking trouble either with my ex girlfriend about that, and I had to tell her, it's like, is there a chance I'm actually gonna meet with these people, especially if they're like a celebrity? There's like not fucking chance in hell. But so nowadays, I'm like, you know what? If it's something like very rarely, I'll hit like because I get complaints about that all the fucking time. But I
That's
have
hilarious.
a crush on Dewdrop.
Oh God. Oh, I mean, hey, whatever floats your boat, that's all good.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, her body. I mean, I like the big tits, but I mean, yeah, she got a belly, but
somebody clip that. Drew, if you're watching, clip that, please. That was a good.
but I mean, I think she's actually a really beautiful looking woman in the face. I mean, like especially when she's all makeup. But and
Right.
I mean, but yeah, you can polish a turd though to make you kind of look better. But
Fixing to say it'd be like picking a turd up by the clean end. Good luck. But hey, it's all good. Hey, we all like what we like.
yeah,
It's that. But see, that's the beauty of what 90s wrestling was, whether it was WCW or it was WWF. You had the smoking hot nitro girls, or you had more of a China type. You could go either way. Now, obviously, you've got the Scarlet Bordeaux, which I think is the most beautiful woman on the planet. There's no argument there. She's absolutely gorgeous. There's no competition.
I don't know. I think she's beautiful, but well, even though this person's no longer an active wrestler, and honestly, if I ever had sex with this person, I would definitely put like 3 condoms on, especially with this shit I seen on the internet. Is Paige.
Oh God.
I think Paige is hot as fuck, but
would you take one of your wrestling belts to recreate the video?
oh, hey, did you hear the there was a big thing going around because of that? It was shortly after that picture got leaked out that they replaced all the NXT belts. They're like, "Oh, we're refreshing them." Like, no, because that fucking picture got out and some dude jizzed on the
changed. Used to say you changed it because somebody whacked off onto it and it leaked. I wonder how many people handled that belt after that happened.
I don't know.
Like I always wonder because when you go to like Fan Fest, you get to like meet Paige, right? And when you go take a picture where there's you get to hold the belt for a minute. Like you just held somebody's splooge on the dadgum wrestling title. Like that's makes you want to wash your hands a couple times in real hot water. But I don't know. Paige, I like her better now that she's got the plastic surgery done. She looks completely different. I mean, I'm sure you've seen recent.
No.
Oh yeah, huge implants. She's got her lips done, but a bunch of tattoos. She looks completely different. Oh, 100%, yeah.
I mean, I thought she. I think sometimes I'm definitely a big boobs person, and I like the big booty. But sometimes if a woman's body is like great, they don't need both. I mean, if it's natural looking curves, I mean, you can't. I mean, argue at it, but
oh yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. We're honestly spoiled by
the internet and everything, pretty much.
The internet, and especially as wrestling fans.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, because even going back to the 90s, you had women like Deborah. Good God, I love Deborah back in the day. And Deborah was one of those that started on WCW, then went to WWE.
Yeah.
You had Tori Wilson. God, I love Tori Wilson. Stacy Keebler. Kimberly Page. You had Sable. You had Sunny. You had all of these women that were in wrestling. Some were wrestlers, some were whatever. We're not going to talk about what Sunny is now, but she's farting in pornos and in prison. But
I was actually thinking about that. I was going to tell you. It's like, did you hear about her farting in the porno?
I've seen it. I had to see it myself. It was I didn't believe. Somebody told me about it. They said, "Hey, Sonny's got a porno." And okay, I'll just tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Sonny. I didn't know Sonny got fat and like what she looks like now. I had the picture in my head of Sonny was still old Sonny.
Yeah.
So somebody was like, "Dude, there's a Sonny porno. You gotta watch this thing." I'm like, "Oh my God, hell yeah! I've been waiting on this, right?" So I watch it and I see this woman that looks like it's Sonny's mom.
Oh,
is this Sonny? No way. No, it's not. And when she farts, I was like, no, what? I had to rewind and I watched it again and I laughed my butt off. It was hilarious. It was so just wow. You know what I mean?
You figure you figure that would have been fixed in post editing, or even, hey, you know that part where she farts? Let's just cut that out. I mean, like, I could do that easily on my fucking phone. Like, I could,
Right. Yeah.
like,
I
edit.
think they left it in. I think they left it in intentionally, just
You,
for that reaction. You know they did. I mean, we're still talking
why?
about it now. Because we're still talking about it. It was one of those things.
I heard about that. You know, it's funny. There's a channel called, it's mainly known by the OSW, but I believe
Oh,
the initials, I believe it's old school wrestling, and a lot of times it's, I guess these guys are from Europe. They're hilarious as fuck, and pretty much
okay.
they'll skim through a pay per view, and they'll pretty much talk over the commentary because that'd be copyright. But somehow they can have chunks of a pay per view. Yeah, they skim a lot of it out, but you can watch
Yeah.
it. And you hear their commentary over it. And one time they did the Sunny porno, and it's on YouTube. And they reviewed
Oh,
it,
man.
and I heard
They
they
reviewed
were
a
like,
porno.
and they're like, oh, and then there's the part where she farts during sex. I'm like, I mean, it has happened to not only.
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened with me with being with a chick. It is what it is. But you don't expect it in a movie like this. It's so this is not real life. You know what I mean? It's a movie. It's a setup. It's a
Oh,
whatever. And it's just one of those things. It's just so fucking good.
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually gonna probably gonna cut this part out. I think this be a perfect little
Oh
thing.
yeah.
You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean?
Put that out. Put that out as Tex and Casey talk about Sonny farting in the porno.
I gotta say, I believe it was Vivid did that porno. I
I have
had,
no clue.
you
I
know,
don't.
one.
I don't. I don't watch the stuff enough to know who companies and what are. So luckily,
I'm trying to look it up. Maybe I have to say Tammy Lynn Stitch.
just to say, is it Tammy Sitch or Snitch or Stitch? I don't remember.
Yeah,
One of those. One of those names.
you know her boyfriend pretty much still runs her Twitter, and oh my god,
Could you
I
imagine being her boyfriend? Like,
especially nowadays.
right. I mean, it's not like you're dating old Sonny. It's like, I mean, Shawn Michaels got the good out of her before she
Oh,
became
definitely.
you know, I mean, he was there in the good days before it went to hell. But,
Oh yeah.
you know, oh, my God, it was, I mean, that's not the worst, thing I've ever seen in life, but probably one of the funniest. So,
I can't locate to see if it. I was pretty sure it's Vivid. You know, one of the biggest known porno companies. So I'm still shocked they let that fart part in there. But
like I
this is,
said, they, they, I'm sure they left it in on purpose just for that reason. That, oh
oh
my
no.
God, she farted in a porn.
Oh no. There's this one. Get this. This is under. I don't know if I want to promote this, but there's if you Google Tammy Lynn Stitch porno, there's a
Uh,
one that says dude sniffs and licks girlfriend's heels and feet in nylons, and then it says Tammy Lynn Stitch starring in Sunny Side Up. But yeah, I know that's the porno name, and it makes sense because I mean it's
yeah,
like
her name was Sunny. Yeah, all that.
the
That's
eggs,
hilarious.
but it says in throughout the rectal hole. I was like, oh my god. Uh,
Forget the forbidden door. We're going through the rectal hole. That's what we're going through, by God.
oh, the original one I believe is called in through the back door. That's what I believe it was called. Sun Inside Out, in through the back door. All right, that's the real one. But
From the back door to the forbidden door. We're just doing all kinds of things in wrestling these days.
oh yeah, oh, gosh, it's amazing what her Twitter page looks like with all her pictures. Like if you look at her rest pictures, her mugshots, and her Twitter page pictures, it's like
Oh,
night and
completely
day.
different, sure.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean yeah,
there's no filters on a jailhouse photo. They show you
no,
the real thing, you know.
yeah, and then honestly,
It
a lot of that's gonna be probably you're taking a lot of makeup on, and then like you said, filters, and then photoshopping, so you
mm-hmm.
get rid of all the faults.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, I'm gonna actually what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut this part down and actually probably remove that and put this in a different spot
Oh,
in
yeah.
another video. But I got an idea. Let's before we move on to the next one. Um, let's talk about the last years of WCW. See,
Okay.
I feel that Vince Russo gets a little bit of bad rap for that one, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. He does. He does. I forget the guy who wrote the book, but there's a Monday Night Nitro book that Eric Bischoff and a lot of these guys promote. I'm going to think of the name as soon as we get off this podcast. I hate
Yeah.
to do this, but there's a book that goes into detail about why WCW failed, and it wasn't because of Vince Russo. Did he contribute? Of course.
Yeah.
But people like Jamie Kellner, who was a TNT, management person, there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that basically once the AOL merger happened and they bought Turner Networks,
Yeah.
WCW was gone. They didn't want wrestling on the network. So no matter how good or bad they were doing, they were going to be sold and canceled and whatever else because they wanted to be a different kind of network. And now, I mean, TNT still, hell, even AEW now barely gets 1 million people watching it. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's just they never recovered.
well, that's the thing nowadays, though. It's TV. I mean, a lot of people are not watching normal TV anymore. Like, I
Right,
barely do. The only time I
right,
fucking watch normal TV if it's football. If I decide to watch Raw or SmackDown,
right.
I'll try to watch AEW, trying to give them some support. But and that's it. It's not like back then where I can, like, even when the invention of DVR got more wide known, where like, oh, I got
Right.
all my favorite shows now. Now I just really watch either YouTube or other streaming devices.
I have 2 huge televisions, and I'd say 90% of the stuff I watch is on my phone.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would be. I used to think I have to have 70-inch TV, to watch something. Now, the times when I watch my big television is if I'm watching if I want the cinematic experience of a film, if I'm watching a Halloween movie or
Yeah.
whatever I'm watching, I'll go to the living room and I'll watch my big TV with the surround sound and all that. But most of the time, I'm laying in my bed or I'm sitting in my chair with my phone out watching something on there because the convenience factor. And,
Oh yeah.
I can do whatever I want. I mean, I don't have like internet hooked up to my TV and stuff. So the only internet I've got is to my phone. And like you said, I'm watching YouTube or
Yeah.
I'm watching one of the podcasts that we do, whether it's the Sunday show or Less Than Serious, or if I'm on Frank's show, or if I'm just watching Frank's show, whatever it may be. And besides that, working, kids, and everything else,
Yeah.
I don't have time to sit down and just, do all of it at one time.
Oh yeah. That's why when I called you today, I was like, wanted to see if this was possible because,
Right.
one is what we're about to do if we have the time, if you're available to do this, right after
Yeah,
this.
no, yeah, I'm good.
All right, but the second part, guys, this is going to be sent to Drew for his Patreon. Me and Tex, we are going to do a watch along and I guess review Ric Flair's last match.
Oh,
Last match because there's
the
already a
last
room.
match until the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm already hearing rumors that he's thinking about wrestling a couple more matches. Even though
I don't think you will. I don't think you will. I don't know.
I don't want to get into too much of this because
Yeah, we'll save it for that
yeah.
podcast. Yeah. Yeah, so make sure everybody, this will be on the Derailed News and Podcast Patreon. It's only $1 to subscribe to it. We don't know when this will be put up. I guess whenever it gets sent to Drew and he has time, that's all on him. But we're going to record the content. We're going to do our, best impression of JR and the King and do whatever. And, maybe we'll, we might, it'll definitely be something that's worth subscribing to the Patreon for. Plus all of the other stuff you get from the post shows on the Sundays and everything else, where you can catch all of us and everything else. My show over there, Off the Reels with Drew, where we talk about horror films, and we're getting to that spooky time of the year. We're covering the Saw movies
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
So
We are getting that close. I mean,
dude, I've already been to Spirit Halloween, my favorite store besides Bass Pro Shop. Like I'm jacked right now. Like they've already gotten my money a couple times. But
it's funny. Me and my best friend, we used to love to go to the Halloween stores all the time. I think that's what they're called.
I'm a 35-year-old man, and I'm like a kid going into Toys R Us when I walk into that place.
Well, I mean, what's cool is that I actually have a leather jacket, like the biker's leather jacket from the '80s, and
Right.
and I picked it up there. It's like I think this is like the real thing because it's like leather and like, but I never really wear it. I worn it like once or twice, but I picked up, me and my best friend, we both picked up spiked shoulder pads, and we went to a high school football game. I know I at least did it where I was wearing my spiked shoulder pads to a high school football game, and this is when not only that this is right after I graduated it because I was still into high school football games.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Because I love football.
Hell yeah.
But me and him, we love going to those Halloween stores. I hadn't gone.
That's great.
I probably hadn't been in one probably 10 years now because
I was in one today.
I need to go check it out. I think what sucks is that this weekend I told Tex that I will be working tomorrow. Usually I don't work. Well, I won't. Usually I don't work Saturdays, but I missed some time last week or a week or so ago, and I missed a third of a day because family emergency. So I was gonna do it anyways to get extra money, but it's just gonna try to cover lost wages.
Oh yeah, gotta get those hours in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking that was a good idea. I mean, go to the Halloween store and do kind of. I could go and look around and do a video or something. I think that's something you probably should do too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could definitely do that. It's next time I'm in there, I'll try to record some stuff, whatever. We
Yeah.
can I'll you know, I'll do try on some master. I don't know. I'll do some kind of cool shit, But it'll be all good. But yeah, y'all make sure and like I said, subscribe to the Derailed Patreon, Derailed News and Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. I'm on Twitter is the only place you can find me, and that's at /Vision. Like I said, just /Vision, all one word. I talk spooky shit, the occasional whatever comes up. Normally it's horror related, but I try to keep it themed somewhat. Sometimes I get off the course if I see a trending topic and I get out of control for a minute, but it's all good. So you can find me there, and we'll see you on part 2 watching Ric Flair's last match, buddy.
Yep. All right. That is it, guys. Thank you. See you guys.